Hey everyone, happy Monday, and you guessed it, it's time for another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So, brand new project came in today. Let me talk about what else we did today, and then I'll come back to this. You may want to grab some sunglasses because this thing is bright. We'll come back to that in a minute. So, you probably also guessed that Rafa continued working on the Barndoor. And you got the back brakes all together. So these are actually like on for real now. Look at that, cotter pin and everything. See, we don't put a cotter pin on until it's done. Unlike some cars, which I won't mention, that have finger tight axle nuts with cotter pins on them. Anyway, yeah, so that was kind of the main thing today. The brakes were a bit of work to put together on these. Just little things, for example, even though we bought all new parts that were supposed to be for I think the brake parts for these are the same as for A's and B's, 356 A's and B's. Anyway, but for example, the metal parts of the brake shoes that go into the pistons on the wheel cylinders and then into the slots on the adjusters, it's like the metal on the brake shoes was too thick to fit in those. Super weird. I don't know why. I mean, again, we bought all this stuff together. It's supposed to, all go together. But so he had to, like kind of grind those down a bit on the shoes. Just the ends. They have those ends that kind of like go into the brake shoe the brake wheel cylinder on one side, and then on the other side they go into the little adjuster. Just those little tips there where they go into those slotted features on those two parts. But stuff like that's pretty time consuming. But anyway, a little bit of adjustment and fiddling and stuff like that. But yeah, they are together for real now. He did have to modify part of the e-brake mechanism a little bit up in the front of the car, up underneath the bottom, so the lever hangs down to the underside of the car, and then there's this kind of like triangular piece that the e-brake cables mount to, and the e-brake cables were a little bit short, so he had to modify that kind of triangle piece. It makes sense that they would be a little bit short on these brakes because these brakes are quite a bit bigger in diameter. So I think what happened is pretty much the lever for the e-brake would be offset kind of backwards some, just because the whole thing's bigger diameter. So it makes sense that lever that attaches to the rear brake shoe would be kind of moved back relative to where it would be on a regular drum brake off this bus. So yeah, little things like that. It's not just completely 100% bolt on. There's always little things like that you don't sort of necessarily know about until you get to it, but not a problem for us. So yeah, I think he also worked on the shift linkage today. I think something in there was maybe hitting a little bit. I'm not 100% sure about that, but yeah, just, continuing to work on the mechanicals of this thing. So myself continued working on this blue beauty here, 68 Vert. And today I pretty much put his steering together, which again doesn't sound like it would be that hard, but there's always little things. So for example, there's a plastic bushing that goes in the end of the steering column tube there. And those bushings are pretty much always too long in this way, and then they're too tight. So on these early cars, the steering wheel actually has like a collar that extends out of it that rides in that bushing, and that's what keeps the steering shaft and everything kind of centered and rotating nicely. So it's like a big white plastic, I don't know, probably Delrin or something bushing, and then this collar sticking out of the steering wheel goes into that, and again, that's what. But yeah, I had to shave probably like a 1/4 inch off the length, so the length in this direction of that bushing. And then the bushings are just notoriously way too tight for that collar on the steering wheel. So, I had to spend time with a rotary file, basically just going around and around, trying to make it, smooth and uniform, the inside diameter of that bushing until the steering wheel would go into it and turn freely and stuff like that. So it's kind of amazing sometimes how long those things take, because obviously you need to clearance it so that everything fits, but you don't want to go too far. So you're kind of like, grinding on it some, test fitting, going back, grinding some more, test fitting. Yeah, it's just kind of how these processes go. Because again, you don't want to just go crazy and take off too much, because then the steering wheel would be kind of sloppy. But you can see this is super tight in the bushing as far as like not having any slop, but rotates in there very freely, which is exactly what you want. But it took a while to get there. So stuff like that. And then let's see, on this end, the steering box was at a very weird angle, and it was too far off to one side. So got it centered as best I could. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered in the steering column too, but it was basically like rubbing on the bottom down here pretty bad. In fact, you can kind of see some marks on it, I think, where it had been rubbing. So yeah, I had to fiddle around with the steering box and the clamp on the bottom side of the steering box. I had to cut a couple notches in it. I think this may be a reproduction beam, because it's got these little tabs on it that are never quite in the right place, that the bottom clamp is supposed to kind of fit around, but they never really do anyway. So I had to remove the bottom clamp and put a couple notches in it for those little little tabs or whatever on the bottom of the beam. So again, just one of those things, and I had to figure out the right place for the steering box to be as far as like side to side, and then kind of rotated this way, and then mark the clamp, and then grind out where those little tabs are on the beam. Anyway, long story short, just little things like that you don't necessarily anticipate, but you end up having to do them, and they take something that should be a 5-minute job, make it a half-hour job, for example. Anyway, so yeah, this is all connected for real now. All the little tabs are bent down, all that good stuff. So yeah, the steering should be good to go on here. Obviously, I haven't done an alignment yet, but that's coming. The other thing I did was, sorry, I didn't grab my light. You can probably see it though. I did form the hard line here for the that runs to the brake master cylinder, and put that in. So that's all set now. So and I previously had tightened all the brake lines. So I think the brakes in the front of the car are done. I even adjusted the brakes on the wheels. And then go around this way. That's a little tight through there. On the back of the car, I went ahead and pulled the drums and started inspecting everything, because again, we don't trust anyone's work. And lo and behold, on this side, these 4 bolts that hold the axle caps on here, they were like snug-ish on this side. On the other side of the car, those same bolts, which again hold your axle caps on and pretty much hold this whole assembly together, they were like finger tight at best. And again, remember when this car came in, the drums were on it and cotter pinned. However, the axle nuts were like finger tight at best. So I'm just finding stuff like this all over this car, and it's just kind of making me nervous. So I'm just checking everything. I started checking like brake line fittings, and some of them were like snug but not really tight. So yeah, I have to go over this car with a fine-tooth comb, because I'm finding little things like that all over the place. So yeah, but yeah, we'll take care of it. We're gonna make this thing an amazing running, driving, and safe car. I don't know that I would really call it safe how it was when it came in. Of course, it wasn't done yet, but again, the fact that they had this cotter pinned on, to me at least, says this is all done. But no, not even close. So anyway, that's that. Sorry for all the sighing and stuff, but yeah, it's kind of weird to go over something that somebody else has worked on and have to fix a lot of stuff. Okay, so yes, this. So this came in today. It arrived all the way from Seattle, which, by the way, is also Seattle area is where the mouse gray bus came in. If anyone's wondering about that, just as an aside, we're waiting for the long block to be built, and then that puppy's going together. Yeah, so this one came in from Seattle area, arrived today. It was transported down, and this is a running, driving car. And it's been in the same family since day one. Actually, not even the same family, the same owner. So husband and wife have it now. She bought it brand new in 1974. It has, I think, like 130 something thousand original miles on it only, which, you know, is pretty low actually for a car of this age. And this color, I mean, look at that. This is the original color of this car. And I looked through all the literature and stuff that I could find on the Samba and color charts and you know, brochures for these cars. Oh, it's a Standard, by the way. It's not a Super Beetle, even though it's a 74. I can't find this color anywhere. However, it is the actual color, and it's the original color of the car. We started poking around on the car when it came in, and you can just see everywhere it's that color. And you know, I think the outside of the car has been resprayed at some point, but this is the color. I mean, that's all not resprayed. That's original paint. And then when you go and you pull out the spare, if I can do that with one hand without killing myself. There it is. Raven Green, basically. Raven Green, I guess. Ravenn. Ravenna? Maybe Ravenna Green. Yeah, anyway, Ravenna Green L65k. That's the color. And yeah, I mean, if you Google search that color, it comes up, and this is it. This is the color. However, again, I couldn't find this color in any of the literature or anything anywhere. So super bitchin', and seems to be somewhat rare color. And I did find a picture of a car just like this in this Ravenna Green, and the black bumpers and you know, the headlight rings and the trim, and look at all this. This is all like original. So this is pretty much the color scheme that the car came with, all the like blacked out stuff, and no trim on the windows. This does look like original window trim with window seals with no trim in it. And the sport wheels, which might have been like an option or something. Let's take a look inside here real quick. So yeah, super original, you know, original door panels, original everything in this car. Again, only 130 some odd thousand miles on it. It's, you know, led a pretty good productive life, I guess. It was obviously used a lot, and you know, got in some little fender benders and stuff, but yeah, super solid car. The doors just close amazing. Look at that. Yeah, so yeah, we are gonna do a restoration on this pup and make it like new for these nice folks and their treasure that they've had since they were new. So might start taking this apart tomorrow, although I really kind of want to take it for a drive and get a video driving it before we tear into it. So I may do that. I did a quick walk around of it today shortly after it came in. I'll post that up later too. It's just a short, it's like maybe a minute long, but I'll post that up. But it's far less informative than what I'm talking about now. But I may do also a standalone, like long format walk around to this car too before we start tearing it apart. It'd be kind of cool to document like that, and then obviously do a walk around when the car is done at the end of the process. And so yeah, we're actually very excited about this. It's a bit later of a model than we usually work on, but man, what a bitchin' car, and cool history, everything, all the good stuff. So that is it for today, guys. So I guess I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye.